Hello, and welcome to this Foster Care Institute online training webinar. Foster Parents' Rights and Responsibilities. I am your host, Dr. John DeGarmo, the founder and director of the Foster Care Institute. I also serve as a speaker and trainer across the globe, a consultant to foster care agencies, a legal expert for legal firms about child welfare related cases, an author, and as a foster father myself. Through the years, my wife and I have had over 60 children come through our home as foster parents, and we, like you, have wondered what our rights, our responsibilities, have been as foster parents. The goal during this Foster Care Institute online training webinar is to increase the awareness of the rights that foster parents have, as well as responsibilities that foster parents share as well. We will be increasing your awareness of the rights that you have as foster parents and foster carers, and gain an understanding of the responsibilities that foster parents have to the children they care for, the responsibilities to the birth family, the responsibilities to the agencies, and the responsibilities to themselves. Now, before we look at the rights or the responsibilities of foster parents, what is a foster parent? Let's look at a legal definition of a foster parent. A foster parent is generally an adult who, despite having no blood or legal ties to a child, cares for and raises that child under the direction or supervision of a welfare agency. Foster parents can be either independent caregivers or they may run something called a group home. In either scenario, foster parents are responsible for minors and share legal rights and custody with the state. Additionally, a foster parent will usually receive some type of monetary compensation for looking after the child or group of children. We thank LegalMatch.com for their definition of a foster parent. Now, as we have examined here at the Foster Care Institute in several of our online training webinars, and of course in several of my books at the Foster Care Institute bookstore, foster parenting is so much more than that. As a foster parent, you invest all of your time. It is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365-day job a year when you care for children in crisis in your home. When children from foster care are placed in your home and you are a foster family, it is a very time-demanding and time-consuming job. If you are like me as a foster parent, then you invest yourself emotionally. When these children are placed in your home and they are suffering and they're filled with anxiety and they're filled with trauma and they're filled with confusion and deep sadness and grief and perhaps even guilt, you feel those emotions as well. Your heart goes out to them. Here at the Foster Care Institute, we've examined in an online training webinar compassion fatigue. And many foster parents suffer from compassion fatigue. Perhaps you have as well. As foster parents, we invest ourselves physically. There have been many a day when I have said to myself, I am just so tired. I am worn out. I'm exhausted. I can't go anymore. As foster parents, we invest our life. As I have noted in other Foster Care Institute training webinars, foster parents live a life of sacrifice. It's a lifestyle that our friends and our own family members do not truly understand, nor do they truly appreciate. No one truly understands a foster parent like another foster parent. As a foster parent, you make sacrifices when you care for these children in your home. You cannot go off to the movies, out to dinner, go off shopping at a moment's notice and on a whim because you had the responsibility of caring for these children placed in your home. There are many stresses when it comes to caring for children in foster care in your home. There is the stress of money. To be sure, foster parents are compensated financially in a per diem. But for so many families, like my own, that per diem does not truly cover all that we spend on these children, and we do not expect that. When these children come into our family, they become family, and that's how it is. There is the stress of work. There are those moments when you are at work and that phone call might come and the child that's placed in your home is sick at school, is sick at the daycare, has had some type of uh, anxiety moment at the school. They need to come home. They need to go visitation. They need to go to court. They need to go to the doctor. And you have to take off work. There is a stress for families, whether it's your own children, whether it's your own relatives. Sometimes the fit between the child from placed in foster care in your home is not necessarily a good fit for your own biological children. And of course, there is the stress upon marriages when it comes to foster parenting as well, and how that folds into the family. There is a stress of health. When these children are placed in their home, many times they come with sickness or illness. They do not have their shots up to date, and they're bringing that into your home as well. And of course, there are those other life issues as well when you are caring for children from foster care, those children who are placed in your home. So many stresses that the average society member does not truly understand, including your friends and your family members. To be sure, each child is unique and each child is different, and that is wonderful and that is beautiful. At the same time, each child brings into your home unique and different challenges, unique and different anxieties, unique and different obstacles that those children are facing. And thus, your whole family has to face those unique and different challenges. And all have to adjust to these new challenges yourself, your spouse, your own biological children, sometimes the members of your immediate family. Everybody needs to adjust to the new challenges that each child brings to your home when they're placed in your home from foster care. Truly is it possible to get used to the job, so to speak, because every day as a foster parent is often a day of new challenges and new adventures at the same time. Some additional challenges or stresses that children from foster care face and bring to your own home are those of learning disorders. And we've seen here at the Foster Care Institute on some of our training webinars that children in foster care are on average a year and a half behind academically, suffering from math and reading skills. And they bring with them so many times issues of behavior and issues of health and issues of emotions as well, emotional challenges, emotional difficulties, anxieties. Sometimes as foster parents, we face the stress of working with biological family members, the birth family members, if you will. And as we have seen here at the Foster Care Institute and some of the books and on some of the training webinars, there are those times when perhaps the birth members, the biological family members of the child placed in your home, they are suffering from their own grief. They're suffering from their own anxiety. They're suffering from their own pain and trauma, or maybe even their own guilt. And they are not at the stage where they can truly work alongside you, co-parent alongside you. They may place some of the blame upon you. They may place some of their own anxiety onto you, and that can be stressful. There are those times when working with social workers or healthcare providers may be stressful for foster families too. Indeed, as we've seen here at the Foster Care Institute time and time again, foster parents truly suffer, perhaps most overwhelmingly so, due to feelings of grief and loss. Feelings of grief and loss when the child that they've come to love as their own is removed for whatever reason it might be and leaves their home and leaves a large hole in the heart, if you will, in that of the foster parent. Feelings of grief and loss are very, very normal for foster parents. Yet so many foster parents do not appreciate nor understand this. And as we said earlier, compassion fatigue is part of that as well. And this is an added stress upon foster parents. And then, of course, there's the added workload that comes along when you are a foster parent. The workload of visitations and court hearings and the documentation and working with schools and working with teachers and working with birth parents and on and on and on. And if you are a foster parent, you understand and appreciate this. As we noted earlier, foster parents do invest all of their time. They do invest themselves emotionally. They do invest themselves physically, and they truly do invest their life for each child that's placed in their home, for each child that comes to be a beloved member of their family. And maybe you agree with this. For me, foster parenting has been the hardest job I have ever done. At the same time, make no mistake, it has been the most rewarding job as well. But it is taxing at times. So, you might ask yourself this: as a foster parent, do I have rights? Do I have rights when I'm caring for these children in my home? When these children are placed in my home from the foster care system, do I have certain rights? Well, let's look at what rights are. According to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, rights are the legal, social, or ethical principles of freedom or entitlement. That is, rights are the fundamental normative rules about what is allowed of people or owed to people according to some legal system, social convention, or ethical theory. Let me read this back to you one more time from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Rights are the legal, social, or ethical principles of freedom or entitlement. That is, rights are the fundamental normative rules about what is allowed of people or owed to people according to some legal system, social convention, or ethical theory. But once more, do foster parents have rights? Well, there are several states that have a foster parent bill of rights. And if you are wondering, if you are curious, if your own state, the state that you live in, the state that you reside in, and the state that you are caring for children from foster care, if you're wondering if your state is part of that list, a simple and quick online search will indicate to you rather quickly if your state is one of those that has a foster parent bill of rights. And if so, it would behoove you and it would be in your best interest to download or copy your state's foster parent bill of rights. I might add this: most states do not have a foster parent bill of rights. So if yours does, you are in the minority. Now, for those states that do have foster parent bill of rights, to be sure, there are many, many similarities between each state. At the same time, there are also differences as well. Yet, there is a universal theme about parental responsibilities, and let's look at that. Foster parents act similar to loco parenti. Loco parenti is Latin for in the place of a parent. Quote, in the place of a parent, end quote. Now, this refers to the legal responsibility of a person or the legal responsibility of an organization to take on some of the functions and responsibilities of a parent. So with that in mind, you can see how foster parents fall under loco parenti, because you as a foster parent have the legal responsibility to take on some of the functions and responsibilities of a parent. So what are your rights as a foster parent? Well, the line between what rights foster parents have and the responsibilities they have can be confusing, can be murky, can be uncertain, can be cloudy, if you will. So it is important for you to understand how both of these work together, both the responsibilities and the rights, both the rights and the responsibilities. Because when you understand these better, it will better empower you and prepare you to not just care and take care of the children who are in your home as an advocate yourself, but to protect yourself and your family as a foster parent, as a foster care, as a foster care family. So once more, you need to understand the rights and the responsibilities and how they work together so you are empowered and prepared not only to care for the children in your home, but to protect your family as well. Now, looking at some of those universal, if you will, universal foster parent rights. To begin with, as a foster parent, you have the right to be treated with dignity and respect as a member of the child's professional welfare team. You have the right as a foster parent to receive proper training and ongoing, continuing support, much like you have here at this foster care institute, throughout the foster term, throughout your term as a foster parent. As a foster parent, you have the right to receive the child's relevant biographical and medical information before he's placed in your home or prior to the placement of the child in your family. As a foster parent, you have the right to receive notice of placement department plans or any court proceedings that affect the child's placement in your home. Going on, as a foster parent, you have the right to refuse a child's placement in your home, or you have the right to request the removal of the child in your home without any sense or sort of reprisal. Let's read that one again, because I hear that often at the foster care institute. Dr. John, I feel that if we ask for the child to be removed from our home, we will face some type of repercussions or backlash or anger. You have the right as a foster parent to refuse a child's placement in your home or to request the removal of the child from your home without any sense or sort of reprisal or backlash, if you will. As a foster parent, you have the right for timely and adequate financial reimbursement. As a foster parent, you have the right to assist in planning visitations with the child's parents and the child's siblings. Foster parents have the right to communicate with all and any professionals needed who are working with a child, such as the child's therapist, the child's teachers, the child's doctors and physicians. You have the right as a foster parent for fair and timely investigations and adjudication processes regarding any foster home complaints, as well as the ability to lodge your own complaints. And finally, as a foster parent, you have priority consideration if and when a child from foster care becomes available for adoption. Perhaps a child in your home, is in place in your home, is coming up for adoption, is available for adoption. The parental rights have been terminated. As a foster parent, you have prior consideration for availability for adoption. Of course, after some certain guidelines have been met. We thank FindLaw.com for these foster parent rights definitions. Now, going on. Per the Division of Child Protection and Permanencies Policy, the DCPMP policy, you have the right for full disclosure. Now, before the child arrives in your home, you have the right to receive all information every bit of information that is necessary for you and your family in order to provide the appropriate care and supervision for the child. This means you have the right to ask questions about the child before the child is placed in your home in order to better determine if your home is able to appropriately care, to appropriately supervise, to appropriately provide what the child needs. You have that right. If you do not receive all the information that you need, if you do not receive the information, the questions you've asked, it is important that you contact the child's caseworker as soon as possible. Indeed, that is part of your responsibility. It is your responsibility to maintain all confidentiality of all information pertaining to the child. Now, this includes sharing information about the child that's placed in your home on your social media sites. We talk about this in great length, why you have that responsibility and why it is important not to share pictures of the child on social media. We go into this in great length of the book Keeping Foster Children Safe Online. And I would encourage you to pick up a copy and read that. Yes, there are those states who have some flexibility in those guidelines, but it is your responsibility to maintain the privacy and confidentiality of the information, all information pertaining to the child placed in your home, including on social media. When it comes to advocacy in the court, you have the right to be heard in court as a foster parent. Let me repeat this because many foster parents are confused by this. You have the right to be heard in court as a foster parent. Now, it is your responsibility to share your concerns with your child's caseworker, child's CASA, the attorneys, and the judge. It is your responsibility to let them know that you wish to speak as well. In regard to documentation, you have the right, and indeed you should, document all activities and all actions of the child in your home as well as the child's behavior. You have the right as a foster parent to document the actions of anyone that is involved with the child, the caseworker, the teacher, the doctor, the birth parents, etc. You have the right to document the actions of them with the child who is placed in your home. I would encourage you strongly to watch the online training webinar about documentation here at the Foster Care Institute and read the chapter of documentation in the book The Foster Parenting Manual. Your responsibility as a foster parent when it comes to documentation is to document everything that occurs in your home when it comes to the child from foster care who is in your home. In truth, it is your responsibility to share this documentation with a caseworker when asked and when necessary. Again, I encourage you to watch the online training webinar here at the Foster Care Institute on documentation because we examine this at great length. As a foster parent, you have the right to establish and form positive and healthy relationships with the child's birth family, the biological parents. It is your right to do so. At the same time, you have the responsibility of trying to establish a positive and a healthy relationship with the child's birth family members and biological parents. Again, let me state this. You have the responsibility of trying to build a relationship with the child's family members. That is part of your responsibility. You have the right as a foster parent to advocate for you and the child by requesting help, by requesting resources, by requesting support. When you feel you need help, When you feel you need more training, when you feel you need support as a foster parent, you have that right to ask for it. Not only for you, but for the child as well. When that child is struggling in school, when that child is struggling with medication, when that child is struggling with therapy sessions, when that child is struggling with counseling sessions, with the visitations, whatever it might be, you have the right to ask for help for the child. Now, I am a big supporter and advocate of foster parent support groups. I enjoy speaking at them across the country and across the globe. And I encourage you to join a foster parent support group of some kind, whether it's local, state, or national. And if you've not done so, I would encourage you to do so. You have the right to join such a group or similar organization. When it comes to resources and support, you have responsibilities as well. Indeed, as a foster parent, it is your responsibility to ask your caseworker for help for you and the child when you are in such need. When you require any type of help or support, this is your responsibility. Ask. It is your responsibility to ask for support for both you and the child, whether it is support by the caseworker or by a support group. Quite simply, and in all honesty, you need to reach out and ask. You need to ask your caseworker when you need help. You need to ask your support group when you need help. Otherwise, if you do not, all suffer. In regards to visitation, as a foster parent, you have the right to be part of a scheduling system when it comes to visitation. When it comes to visitation between the child who's in your home and his birth family members, you have the right to be part of that scheduling. Because as you'll be taking the child to the visitations, most likely, you have the right to be able to determine if this is a good time or not. Does this fit into your own schedule or not? You have the right to be part of the determining when and where so it fits into your own schedule and so that you can ensure these visitations are indeed kept. These visitations are kept because they do fit into your schedule. Now, with that in mind, you have the responsibility to follow visitation schedules and appointments. And if for some reason you cannot make a visitation, you cannot meet the schedule or appointment, it is your responsibility to let the caseworker know ASAP, as soon as possible. As a foster parent, you have the right to be reimbursed in accordance to your state and your agency's policy when it comes to foster parent reimbursement. You have the right to be reimbursed. Again, according to the policy that you're working with. Now, you also have the responsibility, if you will, of documenting the expenses regarding the child in accordance to the state and the agency's policy. This is part of the importance of documentation. Again, you have the responsibility of documenting all expenses when it comes to the child according to your state or agency's policies. Now, as a foster parent, you have certain responsibilities to the child. As a foster parent, you have the responsibility to the child to provide appropriate clothing. You have the responsibility to provide the child's basic physical and emotional needs. As a foster parent, you have the responsibility to the child to provide a safe, stable, and comfortable family environment. It is your responsibility as a foster parent to provide medical and dental needs. Part of your responsibility as a foster parent is to provide consistent and realistic discipline that is age appropriate and allowable. And we examine how to do so here at the Foster Care Institute online training webinar on discipline. So I encourage you to watch that. One of your responsibilities as a foster parent is to provide the educational help and support the child needs. It is your responsibility as a foster parent to provide opportunities for recreational and growth experiences for the child, which is part of normalization. And again, check out the online training webinar here at the Foster Care Institute for normalization. And finally, as a foster parent, it is your responsibility to provide opportunities for the child to maintain relationships with his birth family members and biological parents. That is one of your responsibilities. You also have responsibilities to the agency. Indeed, as a foster parent, you have the responsibility to the agency to attend training and meet the training requirements that your agency requires. Now, in each state, there are different requirements, different number of training hours, if you will, different standards. It is your responsibility to find out what those are and to meet your agency's training requirements. It is your responsibility as a foster parent to make yourself available for meetings with the caseworker when the caseworker wishes to have so. And it is your responsibility as a foster parent to be part of a case review when asked to do so. As a foster parent, it is your responsibility to keep the agency and caseworker up to date on any changes that may happen in your family dynamics. Maybe some older children are moving out or moving in. Maybe an elderly parent, a grandparent, an aunt and uncle or cousin is moving in or moving out. You have the responsibility to letting your caseworker and agency know if there are any family vacations, where you might be going, will you be taking the child with you or not, and changes in the home itself, such as a new address. Perhaps you've moved to a new home, or you need to let the caseworker know that, or there's been a change in a phone number or an email, if you will. It is your responsibility as a foster parent to keep the caseworker and the agency up to date on any and all changes. It is your responsibility as a foster parent to give the agency at least 1 week notice when you ask to remove the child from your home. When you wish to have the child removed from your home for whatever reason, part of your responsibility is to give the agency at least a week notice. Now, to be sure and to be true, there are those instances where you simply may not have the opportunity to give at least 1 week notice. Perhaps some sort of emergency, or perhaps some type of dangerous environment has occurred and you need to have the child removed immediately. Yes, those are circumstances that do happen, and those are understandable. But in all likelihood, and if possible, you have the responsibility to ask for at least a week before you remove the child. Again, there are those instances where that might not happen, and that is understandable. Finally, as a foster parent, you have the responsibility to comply with all state and all agency requirements, policies, and practices. As a foster parent, it is essential, it is imperative, it is important, and it is necessary that you understand what your rights are and that you understand what your responsibilities are. Responsibilities to the child, responsibilities to the caseworker and the agency, and responsibilities to your own self. Because when you do, when you understand what your rights are and your responsibilities, you are better equipped. You are better prepared to care for the child in your home. And this is how you create healthy foster parents. Hey, you have the right, if you will, to read this book to your child. This is an outstanding book for children in foster care. A Different Home, a New Foster Child Story. This book is written from the perspective of a child who is placed in foster care And she has many questions, beautifully illustrated in the words of the child itself. This is a fantastic resource and tool, if you will, to pull off the shelf as a foster parent or as a caseworker and to read to the child when they're first placed into a foster care home or environment to help answer the child's questions and ease the child's anxieties. Again, a different home, a new foster child story, a book specifically written about a child placed in foster care. Pick up a copy. I know you're going to love it. And we have many books available at the Foster Care Institute bookstore. For so much more, go to the Foster Care Institute. A quick online search will take you there, or go to drjohndegarmofostercare.com. Follow me at Facebook at Dr. John DeGarmo and at Twitter at Dr. John DeGarmo, and my email address is there as well, drjohndegarmo@gmail.com. If you have questions about this webinar or if I can be of assistance to you with other things, I'm here to serve you. As we stated at the beginning of this webinar, foster parenting is hard. It's full of stresses. It's full of challenges. It is challenging. Yet, you have rights. At the same time, you have responsibilities. For the Foster Care Institute, I want to thank you for all that you are doing as a foster parent as you're caring for these children. It is my hope that you better understand these rights and you embrace the responsibilities you have. You're doing a great job. For the Foster Care Institute, I'm Dr. John DeGarmo. Thank you.